Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Intelligent Gentleman podcast live stream on Facebook. Hope everybody's been enjoying the remainder of their year and making a lot of plans for what they're going to be doing coming up in the new year. I myself have been doing that, and it's going pretty well. Just really trying to make sure I stay focused on the things that definitely contribute to, abundance, love, and elevation of the community. This to me is a passion of mine. It's something that I love to do. I love to talk about issues and different things that need to be talked about from a man's perspective about our communities. And so I just want to say thank you all for joining and listening and supporting. I really appreciate it. Last couple weeks we've been having some issues with my internet, and so hopefully I've gotten that corrected. I had them come out where they had to find out what the issue was, and come to find out it had nothing to do with here per se. It was somewhere else down the line, and so they were able to find it and kind of correct it. And so far so good. It's been kind of steady. So haven't really had any issues yet. So hopefully it's a good quality stream for everybody out there watching. And again, I really do appreciate it. So this week we're going to be talking about relationships again. I know y'all like, man, we talk about this a lot. Well, it's something near and dear to my heart. And I said to a friend of mine today that I was going to be a lot more transparent about myself. Relationships has been something that I've struggled with in my life. It's been something that has always kind of been a learning experience for me. So, from every relationship that I've been in, I've always learned something new about myself and was able to try to elevate myself to a higher place to become a better man. And so for that, I'm always grateful for whomever I become connected to in that way, because it's so vital, to understand a person's place in your life. And us as human beings, we go through this experience, and we're all traveling in this experience together. And so whatever we can learn from each other, however we can help each other, however we can support each other, we should do it. Because ultimately that's what's important. We all want to do great things. We all want to have, great experiences and have and experience great luxuries in life. But there's some things that money can't buy. There's some things that take more than a physical effort to acquire. And so those are the things that are priceless. Hey Rashonda, thanks for joining in. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Yes, so those are the things that we should, and a lot of people do spend a lot of time thinking about, the things that kind of transcend the material plane of existence. Hey honey Renee, what's up Miss Gunn? Yeah, I appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. I really do. Thank you so much. And we really have to kind of keep everything in perspective, right? So we really have to look past that in order for us to really set our compass straight, right? Because otherwise you kind of get lost in all of the all of the, the glitz and the glam of what's going on. They have a few sayings that talk about this. One of them happens to be, the grass on the other side always looks greener, but if you just water your own grass, then it'll get greener and stuff like that. But which is true in some instances, and in some instances it's not true, right? Because we all have to understand things from a very gray perspective, as well as the black and the white. Sometimes it's not them, sometimes it's us, sometimes it's not us, sometimes it's them, sometimes it's a combination of the two, right? And so that's just that intricate dance of relationships that sometimes we find ourselves going through. And so those are the things that we have to learn from, and how we grow in being that. So I'm about to light one of my candles from my self-love box from Miss Honey Renee Gunn there, that I got from attending the her self-love retreat. So y'all make sure y'all go to her page and find the links to her website. It's singtoinspireyou.com, and go there and check it out and check her out. She's an awesome woman, and she does a lot of things, and it's all for a great purpose. And so definitely go check her out. My friend Rashonda there, she's a model, and she's also a jewelry maker. She makes jewelry. So for anybody who needs modeling services, if you need somebody to model your apparel, or your whatever, or you need some jewelry made, please reach out to Rashonda. And right now I want to give another shout out to Energy H2O, one of our official sponsors, for the Intelligent Gentleman Show. If you want real water, then you should go with Energy H2O, because real people drink real water. As the doc would say, my good friend and brother the doc, as he would say, real people drink real water. So if that's what you're looking for, it comes from Artesian Springs, and it's alkaline naturally. It has natural minerals in it, so it has everything good for you, and it's black owned. So definitely you should be supporting small businesses and black owned businesses, right? Especially in our local community here to Columbus, Georgia. So without further ado, let's get into it. I got like I said, I got my, and then what y'all heard earlier was just a little snippet of some jazz. I was trying to do something different. I had like a little intro. So people could come in and kind of just have a nice little vibe when you walk in the door. So that's how I flow. And Pam, don't say nothing about me rapping right there. Don't say nothing about that, all right? But yeah, I feel good, and I just feel like I should share that with everybody, and I really appreciate everybody who supports me. And I see Queen came in, and I saw people throwing the hearts up. I appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. So first thing I want to talk about, right? Communication. Got to talk about that first, because that's really the foundation. That's the foundation. I mean, you can't really build anything else unless you have that foundation, unless you have that communication, right? That's why time is spent at the beginning of getting to know somebody, learning how to communicate with them, learning how to learning how to navigate their ins and outs of who they are, and how they and how they operate, and how they think, and how you get to know that about a person, right? So communicate. First, let me give a shout out. Dr. Hood. Dr. Hood is where I took this from. I was watching his podcast, and his podcast comes on Thursdays. but it's also it's a radio show actually, and you can listen to it on 92.3, I believe it is. If you're local to this area in this region and whatnot, you can, and if you're doing the internet radio, you can find it. But this comes from him. He's a real good friend of mine. He's my mentor. I really appreciate everything. I learned so much from him just by observation. All of these things that I'm talking about today is something that he shared that I felt like I should share to my audience as well. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the brother for that. Communicate, talk about things, good and bad. You should be able to talk about things, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Talk. You just got to talk. Just have a conversation. If it should be a normal instance of you communicating with whomever it is you're in a relationship with, and about anything. And you should feel comfortable doing that, and they should feel comfortable with you doing that, and they should feel comfortable doing it with you as well. Because what does that do? What is that doing? Why is that important? People like to say, in today's day and age, we're always talking about, positive vibes and keeping things positive and da 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 da. But nobody can be positive all the time, right? And if a person is struggling with trying to be positive, then it's definitely on the other person to decide whether or not they can help them with that, right? And if you can't, that's cool. I mean, it's all good. There's nothing wrong with that, because everybody can't help everybody else through their journeys, and that's fine, but definitely you should always have that communication, because that's what's going to help you build. And this brings us to our next point: trust. It helps you build the trust. If you're not communicating, then it's hard for you to build trust. Why is that? Why is it hard to build trust if you're not communicating? Well, that's a good question. Because for one, how do you know what to trust? Because one of the main aspects of trust is consistency. That even goes back to being able to communicate. If you can communicate consistently, then I can trust that I can communicate with you, right? Otherwise, if it's one of those things where it's like, okay, we can communicate sometimes, we can't communicate sometimes, then it's always kind of on the table whether or not. That's when people start feeling like, well, should I bring this up or should I not bring this up, right? Because I don't know how they're gonna respond to it, So when you start seeing that type of thing happening, then you got to kind of re-examine the communication. It's not a bad thing. It just means that you got to re-examine the communication and see exactly what's going on. Like, okay, so what's happening with our communication? What is it that's triggering you to the point where if I say something and it's not positive, that it takes us to a whole different place? Or, the opposite, right? Why is it that you feel like you can't do that? If you're the person who's bringing it up, but there should always be open. You should always have that in your mind to say, okay, let's do this, because again, when you're trying to build trust, these are the hurdles you got to go through. You have to go through that. You have to. It's like iron going through the fire. I mean, it takes all the impurities out. It takes all the other stuff out. You know what I mean? Like you all the misunderstandings, all the misconceptions, all the things that can happen with miscommunication or non-communication, it takes all that out. So therefore, you never, as they say, if you understand, you don't have to explain. Well, I mean, for understanding to happen, you have to have communication. That's just the bottom line. Now, I want to throw in another little point. Hey, Nikki, welcome. I appreciate you joining in. And she says she agrees. Hey, I mean, this is not, it's not about one against the other. It's about mutual. It's a mutual understanding that you're trying to come to. So if if you feel like it's a competition or you feel like it's something where you got to be right, then there's always going to be that tension. You're going to feel like you're bumping heads a lot of times because somebody's feeling like they have to be right about whatever they're saying, right? And so, that's when the introspection comes in. You have to look in yourself. You have to look within yourself and say, am I really being objective? Am I really listening to learn, or am I just listening so that, I can try to prove my point? If you're not willing to let go of any preconceived notions that you might have had going into a conversation, then, you better, you can just talk to yourself, because otherwise, you're not going to learn anything. That's not a state of learning when you feel like you already know the answer, and again, I was saying at the beginning, I want to be a lot more transparent about myself. Relationships is something I've been struggling with, so that I have struggled with, and some of it and I talked about this on some of my past, and some of it comes from how my mom left at an early age, and I never saw her, spoke to her again. So when it comes to women, to females, I went through an experience where the one person that in your life is supposed to be there for you no matter what wasn't there for me. So just understand how that affects me on a very, very minute level. You know what I'm saying? It does things to you mentally where it's hard for you to trust that a person really does care for you, or that they won't leave you. So those types of, and I just read the other day, something about, relationship anxiety. Like, I have a little bit of relationship anxiety when I'm in my relationship, just because I know what kind of person I am. So when I'm in there, I'm in there. But it's like, well, are they the same? Are they feeling the same way? You know what I'm saying? And that's the that's the push and the pull in that situation, because it's like, you want that reassurance, and men and ladies, don't get no misconceptions. We need reassurances too. We need a lot of reassurances. We might not say anything, but we want it and we need it. We need reassurances. We need you to reassure us that we're that one. We need that. I mean, it's just natural. Again, part of what we're trying to do here is break all these stigmas, that have been placed on us, over the years, especially as men, where like, hey, you weak if if you're showing your emotions and all that. Look, we need to get away from all that. We need to evolve past that. We need to understand, because we're really hurting our children by doing that. You know what I'm saying? Like, one thing I taught my daughter growing up early was, don't be afraid to show your emotions. Don't be afraid to tell me how you feel. When you have that conversation with your children and they say to you, well, I was scared because I didn't know how you would react, then that tells you right there that this is a real thing and this is for a child. So and I remember feeling that as a child too. I don't know how they're gonna react. So just think about that. So when you in a relationship with somebody and you want to talk to them, but you don't know how they're gonna react, so it brings up a type of anxiety. That's right. And hey, Ma, I love you. Miss Walker, Miss Tanji Walker, that's my mom. And Miss Honey Renee says that's real relationship anxiety. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. It was like an aha moment for me. I was like, wow, that's what it is. And I see my boy Chin in there. What's going on, Chin? So, and he like growing up in certain areas and going through certain things, you really have an issue kind of, trusting anyway. It's one of those things. And another one of my partners made a post about it, and had a lot of engagement on that, and they were talking about it. He was saying, if you grew up in the street, and you had a survivalist mentality, then it caused you to trust people less. Just imagine you out there in the streets where anything can happen. You always constantly looking over your shoulder. It's just like anything else, just like any other programming that we've gone through, that we've had to break cycles out of. It's a self-imposed, but it's one of those things where you have to break yourself out of that. And sometimes you don't even get a chance to do that, because of how it doesn't even, you don't even really get to that point, because and again, remember, it's okay if a person can't handle that. That's okay. But if you can't get to the point where you can work on that in a relationship, you never really know. So you always kind of doing the intro, you're doing your self work, but then you don't really know until you test yourself. And so you put yourself in a position, and then it may come out that, okay, so it's a little bit deeper than what I thought it was. So let me work on that. Let me work on that some more. And that's good. That's all good, because as a man, as a king, that's what you want. You want to have that insight. You want that wisdom to know what do I need to work on. Iron sharpens iron. Steel sharpens steel. I mean, you want that. You don't shy away from the struggle. That's not in you. That's not part of you. And that's not what I want to do. You know what I mean? I want to be able to go through the fire and come out where, and that's right, Glow. You got to realize it. That's right. And that's why we're talking about it right now, because, and hopefully people look at it from what I'm saying to know that it's okay. Hopefully you know that it's okay. And I'll be the example, and I'll talk about myself, because that's what it's all about. It's about being vulnerable. When you put yourself in a relationship like that, you got to be vulnerable. If you're constantly trying to protect how you feel, then you're never really fully going to open up to a person. And so if you're never really open to it, then how can you ever grow? You can't. So knowing this, you got to apply it though, right? So you apply it. So we're going to keep going. We ain't going to spend too much time on that, but building trust, by being honest, right? You got to be honest. Be faithful. Be there for one another, right? Be there for one another. Sometimes I just made a post, earlier where, it's just talking about, be my, I was talking to a friend too. There's a saying that says, behind every great man is a strong black woman, right? So if that's the case, then what does that mean? What does that really mean? What are they really saying? They're saying that when those great men are at their weakest point, the one person that you can fall back on is there for you, to be strong for you, right? That's how that works. You know what I'm saying? If you support, that's the meaning of support. Support doesn't happen when everything is going good. If I'm standing up straight, I don't need support. But if I'm leaning, if I'm falling, if I ain't got my balance, that's when the support is needed. That's the meaning of support. That's what it's for. You know what I'm saying? That's the meaning of it. And I like to deal in the truth of things, so I like to deal in what things actually mean, so be there for one another, and that goes both ways. Though. You gotta be there for her just like she needs to be there for you. That's how it is, I mean, it's got to be like that. If it's not like that, then it's always going to feel like, it's always going to feel uneven. You're always going to feel like that's where people start feeling like they're pouring more from their cup than they're receiving. And that's what people start talking about. Well, if both people are constantly pouring into each other, then you always have that for each other. You're always supporting each other. And so, that's how that goes. Glow Opong, what's going on? Thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate you watching. And Rashonda, yes. We all, and that's part of it, and we all on our own spiritual journeys. We all are looking to learn and understand more about ourselves and about the world and the universe. And so, I get it. And that's why I'm constantly seeking to self-improve myself as well. Because I know, I'm not exempt from it. Nobody is. And if you think you are, then that's a different podcast. We're not gonna talk about that, right? That's a different one. But so make time. I've read something else. It was from another another psychologist, because my friend who I'm reading this from, he's a psychologist. And so she said it too. One of the main ways of showing you care about somebody is making time. So if you're unable to make time for a person, then it stands to reason that they're not really gonna feel connected in that way. They're not gonna feel connected in that way. You know what I mean? Because it's needed. It's a natural human need to want to want that connection, to want to be able to share with someone the most intimate times and thoughts and just experiences in your life. That's a connection, and so you got to make time. These are all things that make for a great relationship. Leave the past to the past. Sometimes we like to bring up the past. Sometimes we're trying to see, what if there's some lingering baggage there, some things that, we might have to watch out for, in the future. Hey, is this person still in your life? Or, hey, what are you doing now? Or how are you handling this situation? Or how do you handle yourself in a situation? How do y'all handle yourself in a situation if your ex comes up when you're with your new person in the relationship? If they reach out to you, or if you see them out in the streets and they walk over to y'all, and y'all can chime in the chat and let me know what y'all think about that. But Rashonda's laughing. She said, I literally just made a post about making time for the people you love and care about just the other day. Yeah. Because this is, everybody wants that. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where it's like, now in today's day and age where self-care, self-love is so important, where you need to take time for yourself. Sometimes we can look at it like a person's being needy. They're being needy because they want you to spend more time. And that's just not true. It's a basic love language. It's a basic love language. It's all it is. So if a person is looking for that, that means they probably need that, And, I always think about it like this, like being needy. When you need something, if you say that somebody's being needy, then you're really kind of missing the point. Because everybody needs it. Some might need it more than others, but does that make them less valuable? I don't understand that. They're not less valuable just because they need more. Especially like if it's, again, but you do need to have boundaries, and you don't want to just continuously give of yourself and not have anything for yourself. So let's not misconstrue that. And as a partner, if you need time, you part of that, because it's mutual. So you love that person, they love you, right? So as you're needing time, you're giving time. So I give you time. I'm not going, hey, but then when I come to you for time, then it should be reciprocated that way, right? And vice versa. If I'm busy, doing my podcast, doing my business, doing this, doing several other podcasts, whatever I'm doing, trying to pay the bills for my business, then I'm busy. But one of the things I pride myself on, and one of the things that I don't ever want to change about myself, is how responsive I am to my partner's needs. So when they come to me, and I like the way Jay-Z kind of did it with Beyonce, right? And she wrote a song about it. She put it in the song. I forgot how it went and what song it was, but basically, she was just saying that every time it didn't matter if he was in a meeting, if she sent a message, he responded. You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's being a man. Because what are you doing? You're placing value on what's valuable to you. And if you are valuable to me, then that's not going to put me in any inconvenience to want to do that for you. There's no inconvenience at all. You know what I'm saying? Now, does that mean that it might be right then? Not necessarily. Like if I'm in the middle of talking and I'm talking to some people or whatever the case may be, I see the text, okay, but then, hey, and a man can do this. All right, excuse me 1 second. I'm gonna step away for just a second. Let me answer this text and I'll come right back. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's ways of doing everything. It doesn't mean that you just have to stop what you're doing and then just not, go back to it or whatever the case may be. But you should definitely put it on your priority. It should be on your priority list. Honesty and trust. I agree. Honesty and trust. Honey Renee says, I think those discussions are important to have in a relationship. Those what if discussions. How would you handle this or that? It puts things in perspective, being proactive versus reactive. Right. So, great point. I'm glad you made that point. Let me get on that real quick. See, there's a difference between being proactive and being reactive. If I just wait for everything to happen to me, right, and just react to it, I'm living a very reactive life. And there's a wise saying about that. If you live in this way, it's easy for people to manipulate you. And there's a reason for that. It's because they can put something there that they know you're going to react to in a certain way to make you, to try to control you. That's why it's very important for you to practice that self-control and that self-discipline, because otherwise people will start using that against you. Oh, okay, I know that's going to push her button, so let me do this. You know what I mean? And it's petty, it's low vibrational, but it happens. People do that. People do this. So we can't act like it doesn't happen, see, I'm trying to get y'all comments too while I'm going through this. Responsiveness, yeah, it is. Responsiveness is a love language. Absolutely, I agree. Okay, trying to say she'll be right back. Yeah, no problem. And again, thank you all for supporting. I appreciate y'all being here. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. I really do. And so let's go into this. Having arguments are normal. Ooh, that might hurt some people. But the fact of the matter is, it's normal. According to psychologists, according to people who study people, it's normal. It's normal to have arguments, especially if you're with someone over a period of time. I mean, it only stands to reason that you're gonna have arguments, because you're not gonna agree on everything. So you're gonna have to hash it out, and it may not be the most pleasant of experiences. But one thing is for certain, two things for sure. If you love the person, if you are willing to do that, then you can do it. You can make it through it, and it will only make you stronger. It will only make you stronger. It will only bring you to a point where, okay, well, we know about this, and so let's move from here and go into the solution, right? So we know this is what this gonna be. Let's move to a solution, because you gotta move it down the field. You gotta move the line down the field. If you're not moving it down the field, then guess what? You're never gonna score. You're never gonna get a goal. You're never gonna reach your goal. What is the goal? The goal is understanding. If you keep just repeating the same cycle and never really getting into any understanding, which may be a compromise. It may end up being a compromise. It may end up being me changing my perspective. Well, you know what? To me, it's not that serious, but if it means that much to you, I'll do that. Pride, putting your pride down and saying, look, if it means that much to you, okay, this is what I'm going to do, right? And do it like that. You won't always be happy. You're not always going to be happy in your relationship. That's impossible. That's impossible. Because as a person, you're not always going to be happy. And I think I saw a post from somebody else talking about this, where it was like, you need to be a complete person when you go into a relationship. Yeah, that's right. Your happiness is dependent on you. So if you can't go through an argument or some sort of conflict and come out the other end and say, you know what? I mean, it doesn't devalue me as a person, so I'm still going to be happy and we can still move forward from this, then you probably don't need to be in a relationship. Don't expect change. Don't expect somebody just to change, because that's not always going to happen that way, right? So what does that mean? So that means you have to be honest with yourself. You be honest with yourself. Like, should I expect this from this person? You know what I mean? If I'm going to expect, if this is something, and I like to talk about that type of stuff as non-negotiable type stuff. There's non-negotiables, things that I just got to have. Communication is one of them. I just got to have in my relationships in order for me to want to be in a relationship. Okay. If I don't have that, then it really can't go the way that I want it to go. It can't. You know what I mean? Because again, to me, the foundation is communication. It is communication. Appreciate the flaws. You want to appreciate the flaws. You want to appreciate the fact that the person is not perfect. And that's okay. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I was reading another post from another psychologist. The one I spoke about last time. And basically what she was saying was, let me pull it up here. Okay. Said, someone needs to hear this. People can love you in your brokenness. Someone can love you right where you are, even as you're healing. You are worthy of being treated with love and dignity. Mistreatment is never your fault. It's not your fault. And you do not deserve to be mistreated because you don't love yourself enough. So that's what people got to really kind of realize about that is, sometimes it's hard because sometimes you're not loving yourself, right? And at those times when you're not loving yourself, you got somebody special when they can love you when you ain't loving yourself. You know what I mean? And they don't take it personal because they know, well, you know what? I know where this is coming from. This is coming from this brokenness that's in you. And I love you in spite of that. And so we're gonna move past this. As long as they're not doing anything violent to you or anything of that nature, we're gonna let you get through what you need to get through, and then we can come back to this. It's just that plain and simple, Appreciate each other. Appreciate a person that's there for you. Appreciate them. It's simple. You know what I mean? It sounds simple anyway. Hey, I appreciate you. And, we say that a lot. We say that to each other. Hey, I appreciate you. I appreciate what you did. I appreciate who you are. I appreciate this and I appreciate that. But do you really appreciate them? Or are you saying that in a robotic way where it sounds good and that's what people say? They say, I appreciate you. Or are you appreciating me for something I did for you, but not necessarily for who I am, the person who did it? You see what I'm saying? See, that's a difference too. That one is very impersonal, but when you're in a relationship, it should bring a new appreciation of that person. Like if a person makes some sort of sacrifice for me, I appreciate that on a deep level, on a whole nother level. That to me inspires trust and loyalty more than anything, because I'm looking at it like, hey, wow, I mean, you didn't have to do this, right? So when you do this, man, now that showed me something. There was another post somebody put up there that was talking about the difference between men and women. And us as men, we do look at actions a lot. We hold actions to more weight than words a lot of times. So when we see what you're doing versus what you say that you're gonna do, to us it doesn't hold the same weight. It doesn't mean that we don't love you. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna believe you. It doesn't mean all that. All that means is that we're gonna have to see that action at some point in time, because otherwise, because we hear, people say stuff all the time. It's what you doing though. What are you doing to reinforce that? Are you making those sacrifices for me? Or am I making those sacrifices for you? You look at it both ways. And if that person is, then okay, so that's actions. Those actions speak for the words that you had, that you told me. And also, you're going to want to become best friends. And we all have best friends, right? We know what best friends are. We know how that works. I'm just drinking on my green tea and turmeric and ginger. We all have best friends, right? How do you become best friends? And what are some of the things that you may go through with your best friend that sometimes, it's not all fun and games, not all roses, right? Sometimes it's, falling out and having to find your way back. But knowing that you're best friends, we always gonna come back. Because we ain't just friends, we best friends. When you look at a person as a best friend, that's not a temporary thing. That's not something that you look at like, okay, well, tomorrow that can change. You know, you don't really look at that. That's always going to be that. And for me, that also means to me that at the very minimum, you want to maintain the friendship with the person. Because ultimately, us as human beings, we have to understand that, you know, again, when you're in love, when you love somebody, there's going to be times where you may not feel that as much as you did before. But having that friendship there can kind of guide you through those times to bring you to a time of where you love them again, and then it just rekindles everything all over again. It's almost like y'all met all over again, you know, but you know, and that can be through growth, it can be through a lot of things. And lastly, but not least, love each other unconditionally. Love each other unconditionally. That's a powerful one, and that's a hard one for people to do, because loving unconditionally makes you extremely vulnerable. If I love you unconditionally means I'm not putting any conditions on you to me loving you, right? Now I'm vulnerable. Now I feel vulnerable, but really you shouldn't, because the wisdom behind that is you can love a person unconditionally, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be with the person. But if it's a person that you are in love with in that way, then loving them unconditionally means that I accept your flaws. I don't expect you to change. I know you won't always be happy. I know that we might have arguments. I know that, you know, we're best friends. And so in that, I know that we're going to be all right. We're going to make it through whatever we have to make it through. And so that's what kind of keeps you going. And so with that being said, you know, I just want to say again, thank you all for tuning in and listening. And I wanted to kind of put that out there because, you know, as I said, last week on Thursday, I believe, the brother put that out on the radio show, and I just thought it was a very powerful. He did it as an ending to his segment, but you know, I think it was worth more of a conversation, you know, because it's some powerful stuff, and it really did speak to me. And again, you know, because I have my own issues in relationships, you know what I mean? So, you know, looking at things from the perspective of, you know, how I should be in a relationship helps to guide me through my growth and maintaining healthy relationships. So I look forward to doing that. You know, this is something I really look forward to, and I really appreciate everybody for your support and your love. And definitely make sure you like the page, share the video. If you got anything from it and you feel like somebody else will, please share it out. And definitely, please keep the conversation going. You know, keep it going. We want to hear more. You know, I want to hear, you know, everybody's perspective, what they think. You know, if they agree, disagree, it's okay. It's okay to do that in the chat. We're not trying to, you know, we're not trying to keep anybody in a box. But, you know, we definitely want to make sure that there's open communication all around the board. So again, thank you all. Thank you to my friends, my family. Thank you to all the people who joined for the first time. And I appreciate you. And we'll see you on the next one. Y'all take care and be safe, okay?